Here's another recently extinct animal that you may or may not have heard of, the Christmas Island Pipistrelle. This is the Christmas Island Pipistrelle. It's a type of bat that used to be endemic to Christmas Island. Now, Christmas Island is in the Indian Ocean, however, it is owned by Australia. And it is basically due to the failure of the Australian government that this bat is now extinct. So Christmas Island has been known about for quite a while, and so has the decline of the Christmas Island Pipistrelle. They were quite abundant, but their population rapidly started to decline in the 90s. So people, both researchers and locals or people living on Christmas Island, were like, hey, Australian government, besties, this bat is quickly starting to decline. We are not seeing this at all anymore. Like, there is very few of these bats left. Let's do something about it. And then the Australian government was like, yeah, okay, we'll get to it. Yeah, we'll put it on the list, put it on the stack over there. We'll get to it. And then they didn't. So bat researchers, specifically on Christmas Island, have been campaigning to start being able to capture these bats to establish a captive breeding program. They're like, hey, if we don't do something, this bat is gonna go extinct. And then the Australian government, whichever part is responsible for conservation and all that, they're like, yeah, we'll get to it. And so finally in 2009, the Australian government was like, okay, fine. If you're really that worried about it, we'll give the go-ahead to start a captive breeding program so you stop complaining about this bat. And so the go-ahead was given from the Australian government for researchers and all that to start capturing the Christmas Island Pipistrelles to establish a captive breeding program. However, the last sighting of the Christmas Island Pipistrelle was a few months prior. In 2009, right at the start of the year, I think, there was only a couple of sightings. Like, there was 4 bats noted, and then there was 1 singular bat noted later in the year, 2009, before the captive breeding program was established. And then it was never seen again. Now, a lot of people, myself included, are very, very unhappy about how this was handled by the Australian government. If you look up Christmas Island Pipistrelle, almost all of the articles are like, Australian government done gone fucked up, Australian government really shat the bed in this one, and they really, really did. They definitely dramatically failed this bat as a species. Because the captive breeding program was finally approved after the very last sighting of the Christmas Island Pipistrelle, it was approved after. There was 1 sighting of 1 singular bat, and then the captive breeding program was approved, but too little too late, because they were all gone at that point. There was none seen again, and so with no bats ever seen, there was no bats to capture and captive breed. So the go-ahead to finally start a captive breeding program was effectively useless. And because the Australian government dropped the ball so badly on this one, they went extinct. Now, we don't know for sure whether the captive breeding program would have worked or not, due to the fact that many do fail. We don't know how these bats would have done in captivity, if it would have been effective at all. But because the Australian government was so lagging and dragging their feet in all of this, researchers didn't even get a chance to try. And so it is basically the whole fault of the Australian government that these guys ended up extinct, because we did not get a chance to actually try to insert a captive breeding program to reinstate the population. Now, the actual cited causes for the actual extinction itself is multiple things, including habitat loss and destruction, as well as disruption of roosting sites, which is where the bats kind of live when they're not out hunting and flying. But the main reason is cited as being invasive species, mainly centipedes, the yellow crazy ant, and the black rats, which have caused a lot of problems for Christmas Island. I've made an entire biomes video about Christmas Island, but those animals specifically have caused so many problems and have caused a large amount of Christmas Island's endemic animals and plants to either become endangered or fully extinct. And so the very poorly handled extinction of the Christmas Island pipistrelle makes it the first Australian mammal to go extinct within the last 50 years. So, great job.